That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a quick reminder, tickets are still available for our conference, Rebels of Disclosure, next year, May 13th through the 16th in Grafton, Illinois. Once again, rebelsofdisclosure.com is where you can find all that information. Every ticket comes with a live stream pass. There's meal plan options, live stream options. There's day passes. We're really looking forward to it. We have a great lineup next year. I keep wanting to say this year. I get these conferences. It's amazing. We're already on
It'll
the
almost
third
be
one. Yeah.
almost be this year.
So, yeah, if you guys are interested in joining us out in Grafton at our conference, we would love to see you there and grab a ticket, rebelsofdisclosure.com and Hopewell Farm CBD. They have a promo code going through the first of the year, JTT new, I think. That promo code will be in the description, but it gets you 15% off, gives you 15% off all of their products. And if you're looking to try a new CBD, their CBD oil and topical ointments are the best,
Phenomenal.
in my opinion. Yeah. And they when they grow the plants, they're setting the intention the whole time. It's all done it's a very energetic spiritual process. So we love their products and we highly recommend them. That information is in the description below. But tonight we are joined by Devara ThunderBeat, who is a musician, composer, sound healer, teacher, author, visual artist, and an ET experiencer. There's so many stories and so many things that you've experienced, Devara. I don't even know where to start with all this, but you have quite the experiences to share, and I think it's so beautiful. You've written 4 books now. Aaron just read your second book, and he was taking pictures of
I was
pages
constantly
and sending
sending
them to me.
screenshots of pages in the book and sending it to him.
But what's interesting about that is, he was just sending me interesting stuff that, he thought that I would be interested in. And once I was reading it, you only send me like 1 or 2 pages, and then I would be like, no, where's the next page?
Yeah.
Like it was all these cliffhangers.
Wow.
You gotta get the book. You gotta read the
right.
I know. A lot. People couldn't put it down. That was just beautiful when I heard that or hear that. But we can start from the beginning if you like.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
You've been on a number of shows. Carrie Cassidy, we're just recently on with Michael Sala. You knew Dolores Cannon. You had a session with her in the past, but your experiences started at a very young age, maybe age 4. Was it 4 years old? And maybe we can start there and just let our audience know how you kind of fell into this, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah. Well, I was 4 years old playing in the driveway, broad daylight, and a ship came over and it was cloaked in a cloud. And so when you see some of these clouds that look like ships, I'm telling you, I see them a lot now that I know. But it actually came over me in the daytime and it pulled me up into the ship. And as it was pulling me up into the ship, my mother ran out of the house trying to catch me, and they pulled her up too. So that's really where the whole story begins. And I didn't remember everything. I remember coming back, and I remember floating in the air, actually tumbling in the air, like we're talking 30 feet. And I was going back towards the driveway where they picked me up. And I said, oh my, I'm going to hit my head and hurt myself. So I need to land on my hands. Now I'm moving in slow motion, not your normal. So I said, oh, I need to land on my hands. And as soon as I said that, I flipped around really fast and landed on my hands. And my cat was there and jumped about 10 feet in the air, and because I must have came out of nowhere, and it scared the hell out of it. And my mother runs out of the house. And she goes, where have you been? I've been looking all over for you. I was ready to call the police. And I'm like, I've been right here in the driveway playing, Mom. So that's all I remember till I got the regression with Dolores Cannon. Many, many years, because I always all my life coming, what was that? And I've asked so many people, and they always said, well, it sounds like you had a divine experience with God. And I'm going, well, I think it's a little different than that. And so when I had the experience regression with Dolores Cannon, which took me a year to get a session with her.
Mhm.
She was so
Yes.
booked up, and I had to go to Arkansas. So I said, "Fine, I need to know what happened." So when I had the regression with her, it was actually like almost a 4-hour session. It seemed like, and then I went through a couple of different situations, which I've had many. So we only had time for maybe 2. And so what happened? They brought me up into the ship. They put me on a silver table, rolled me down this hallway, and they were doorways. There were many rooms with open doorways, and each one had a different color. They're all lit up different colors. And then they put me into another room and they shined golden light onto me. And they said, my name, you said, your name is Flying Eagle with many wings. And I said, what? I said, that sounds Native American. I'm half Native American. So I asked my uncle, I said, you know, just got this session and they said that the star family called me Flying Eagle with many wings. He goes, where do you think we get our names from? We get them from the star people. And I went, oh.
Oh,
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, I thought. I was like, okay. But I didn't know that. We don't talk about that a lot. And I hate to say, but a lot of my Native Americans don't share a lot with the white men because they don't trust them.
Right.
Simple as that.
I can't
Yeah.
blame them there. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. And you mentioned the clouds being an alien cloaking device would make them appear as a cloud. Is this something they shared with you, or did you find this through the regression? Did you figure that out, or was that something that you realized in real time while you were being taken?
Well, no, in the regression, because I was going through the same experience, and when they were pulling me up, there was steam coming out of the ship, creating the cloud, and it was like actually making the steaming noise, like shh, and it was making surrounding the cloud. How they maneuvered it, I don't know. So they cloak themselves in clouds, or they make
Interesting.
their own clouds and cloak them. And when you see them, I see them now that I know, I see them almost everywhere. I can feel them. I can feel the energy of them. And I go, oh,
Yeah.
there's a cloud ship. I call them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen many. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so that's really interesting because we always hear about the cloud ships and people look up, oh, there's a cloaked craft, but I've never heard them described or the technology described the way you describe it. So that's a
Right.
first, and it makes sense. Like it's an actual cloud machine that's forming a real cloud, and it's not just an illusion.
Yeah, and they're cloaking themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, if you don't know that, and a friend says, oh, there's a cloud ship, it's like, yeah, right, sure. They wouldn't even believe you half the time.
So
Right.
that was age 4. Then what was the next experience after that?
It wasn't for a while till um let's see, had a lot of missing time. So, and it's usually I noticed the missing time. It's always usually 2 hours. And the next one that I was really prominent was when I moved to Florida, Sarasota, Florida, and that's actually considered a Stargate down there. They have
It is.
in Sarasota, Florida, they have a huge crystal rim out in the ocean. It's huge. It's all quartz crystal. And people would say, oh, it's a Stargate. I'm like, oh, whatever. And when I moved down there, I had my dog Sheba, which I love dogs, and they wouldn't allow dogs on the beach, so I would sneak her down at 1:00 in the morning.
Hmm.
Nice.
And she's a lab; she loves water, so we go and play till sunrise. And about the second time I did that, I was missing time. It was all of a sudden 30 minutes later, it seemed like it was sunrise. And I'm like, and I couldn't find my dog. And I always have keep an eye on my dog. So I'm going, what just happened? And I'm going, Sheba, Sheba, where are you? She was like a mile down on the beach, way down. I was like, how can I not just see her or lose her for that long? And that was part of the second aggression or regression, I'm sorry, where they took me up into the ship, and I don't know if I put that in the book, but and they were downloading me all kinds of information, and I just didn't remember it till I guess what they do is they download your information, and then it triggers later with a certain person that I meet that I don't know. But when I was up in the ship, I was wondering who they were, and they were the Andromedans, and they're totally positive beings. The first one was my star family from Sirius A, and they were reminding me my mission. So every color, they had all these rooms of color. They work with color, light, and sound. And when I started working with color, light, and sound, I didn't remember from my star family, but I've been doing that all my life. Like I've known it all my life, kind of came in. And then that was like confirmation. It was like, oh, and they're talking to me now. They want me to say I have 14 CDs out, and they're all activational and lots of sound healing, 5 different kinds of sound healing CDs. But this one I wrote is called Cosmic Awakening. And while I was writing it, they came in and said, you wrote this before you even got on Earth, that you got here. And I said, that's what I said. I said, wow. Because it was a whole different kind of music that I've never written before, and I actually kind of never heard. And all these like the names of them came in, like these different planets, like Sirius and Andromeda, and I don't even remember Palladians. And so there are like music from different star families, I call it, and they said, yeah, you wrote this before you got here. And that was actually after I have a recording studio. After writing that, the writing wasn't hard. It was the mixing that was hard, because when you mix, you got to listen to every tone. I was actually leaving my body while mixing it because I couldn't get grounded from the tones of the music. And I'm going, whoa. It took me the longest to mix that CD out of all my CDs. I think it was like 7-8 months, which is a long time. I usually can get it done in 30-40 days. And I'm like going, whoa, okay, this works. Don't drive with this CD.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Can you tell the story? So you're a drummer, and you were talking about how back in the 70s you were starting to play drums, and you were just almost instantly amazing at it. And back then things were a little bit different than now. And you said a lot of you'd audition for things, and they're like, girls don't play drums and all that stuff back then.
Right.
And that was, obviously that's ridiculous. But the people that would listen to you that were really impressed are like, wow, you're amazing. You're better than almost anyone else I know. And you end up joining bands. If you mind telling that story.
Yeah. Yeah. When I moved down to New York City, I'm from upstate New York, and I moved down there because upstate New York, they were totally rejecting me. My friends from high school and junior high and actually elementary school said, oh, if you girls don't play drums, are you into that woman's lib stuff? I said, I don't even know what that word means. I just love playing drums, And so when I moved, a friend of mine, she's a singer down to New York City, I said, oh yeah, this is my spot, because everybody's more open-minded, but it was still a lot of restrictions there. I had to talk my way into auditions. They said, well, you're a girl. When I'd call, you're a girl. So I said, well, while you're auditioning, why don't you just put me in there? I said, that's the way I got in. And and they would tell me that, oh, did you know you just blew away 60 drummers? I said, what? I thought they're just being nice to me. But I found out later they were right, but they would never take me because I was a girl. And but they made excuses like, oh, well, then we have to get another extra rooms for you, and extra this and extra that's going to cost us a lot on our budget. So I said, well, they're just being nice. And I just thought I wasn't that good. And I took it like very personal. But I found out later from the drummers that got the audition for those, that they heard about me. They said, I heard you just blew away 60 guys, and I'm like, really? And I did used to rehearse. I used to practice 6 to 8 hours a day. I was so into it. When I finally got gigs, you know, I even got turned down by Gladys Knight. She goes, "No girls, a girl drummer, no," and she's a girl. I'm like, what?
It's a different time back then.
Right.
Yeah. Now it's like more, of course, more common. I see some of these girls are like, I go, yeah, girl, right on. You know, they're just really good.
Right.
Yeah.
That, you mentioned, well, in the interview that I watched, you were told that you were from the future, and like throughout your life, you would have experiences like the TV looked too big to you. You thought it should have been a flat screen, and just weird things like that. So that would align with what you were talking about, like having written that music before you even came here. It's like you already had this future awareness of our civilization. Could you give some of those examples?
Yeah, well, that was one of my was regular TV with the tube. I kept looking at the back of the TV going, why is this so thick? It should be like a flat, just thin piece, you know, and that was like in the 70s or maybe even 60s. I can't remember. Um, and well, I found out from my Star family that I volunteered to come here to help, you know, help uh, awaken people to new ways and the light and like I said, I work with the color, light, sound, expanding people's awareness. Because what was been happening for thousands of years is kind of everyone on Earth is going around and around in circles, repeating the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, okay, we got to get out of this rut. And before we destroy the planet, I was worried about them destroying the planet, especially with the nuclear weapons they have, you know, designed. And my star family says, well, we dismantled them. So they're one of the people, star Syrians that dismantle them. But they told me other star systems dismantle them too, because they want to make sure that we don't blow ourselves up, you know. And the military, what's funny about the military, they go, oh, they're, you know, shutting down our weapons. They're going to attack us and kill us. You know,
They see it as a threat, right?
yeah, they're a threat, and it's not that at all. They're not violent, and
we're the threat to ourselves, and they're trying to stop that threat and to them as well, and many other civilizations that have nothing to do. Yeah, it's crazy. But you know, when you're a hammer, everything you see is a nail. Like that whole, you know, it's like the military sees anything it can't control that's doing things out of its as a threat or shutting down its own stuff as oh, they're going to attack. We gotta, you know.
Right. Exactly. So no, they if we blow ourselves up, it will have a ripple effect throughout the solar system and the galaxy and even part of the universe. So it really affects everything.
Right.
And they don't realize that, you know, the military or whatever doesn't realize it's really huge, huge. And they've been destroying the planet. I mean, come on, it's polluted. It's so polluted that when I was up in the ship, I could see the Earth and it was full of brown smoke. It wasn't what they show us. Okay. It's not what they show us. It's really polluted. It's very bad. So they actually told me that they've helped clean it up. And they said if we didn't help clean the Earth up, it would be a dead planet. And they showed me a black piece of charcoal. So they have been helping. They said, we can only interfere if you, you know, destroy yourself, you know, so we stop because it is a free will zone where they can't just come in and do this work without, you know, somebody asking, you know, permission.
We have to ask for help. Right.
Yes. But they said, you know, we're going to make sure that, you know, we can come in and help make sure you don't destroy yourself, you know.
I have heard that too. And I don't, maybe it was Dolores Cannon's book, but I have heard that like there's certain circumstances that where they can intervene if it's necessary. So
yeah.
And I mean that's interesting that so you were on a craft and you saw not this blue beautiful planet that we see on Google Earth. It was all smog and pollution.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was the best way I describe what it looked like was brown smoky clouds.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. To be honest.
Do you think you were seeing like the energy more than like the physical? Like, was it that was like physically what it actually looks like?
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what's happening right now? Like we're being bombarded, it seems like, with all this dark energy. You know, they're throwing everything they have at us. And I know you're in communication. Like, what is your opinion, and what are they telling you about what they see and what you see is actually going on right now?
Okay, well, this is the call it the dark side. This is their last days. You know,
Mhm.
you've heard about the end days. This is their end days, okay?
Right.
Seriously.
Mhm.
And they are trying everything they can to, you know, keep the planet the way they want it or keep it. And it's impossible because the frequency is raising so high. It's going to be raising to the frequency where they can't even handle living
Yeah.
in it. It would make them sick and they
Right.
can't survive. Okay. Because they're,
Unless they raise, but many of them will not.
yeah, many
We've heard
will.
stories about many of them have flipped to the light now, and I'm sure that's true as well. But
Yes.
most of them
Yes.
probably.
Actually, I do clearings and when I do the clearings of the negative entities from people, some of them have thanked me. They said I was caught in this web, this circle, and I couldn't get out. And I send them to the light, and they go, "Oh my God, thank you so much. I didn't know how to get out of that,
Mm,
you know, that circle
yeah.
of darkness." So yeah, a lot of them have thanked me, and well, I'll say right now, probably about 20%, which is pretty good actually, you know, that want to go to the light, you know, and wanted to say to yeah, there was another planet in our solar system called Meldeck. Are you
Mhm.
guys familiar with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the asteroid belt now.
It's the asteroid belt. A lot of people don't know that. Even science, well, I'm sure they know, but they won't admit it, you know.
They won't
Right.
admit it.
It's or science.
Yeah.
They're keeping so much from us, but yeah, so that they blew themselves up, and they don't want that to happen to us, you know, and that caused chaos. I mean, they even told me that it was a red luminous planet. It was the most brightest planet in our solar system. And like I said, it was red. And when it exploded, it made Mars red. Mars was not red. Mars was not red. It was coated with the dust from Meldeck, and the big scar on Mars is from the explosion of Meldeck.
I was just going to say that one whole side of Mars looks like a big explosion happened, and that's what I've heard. The same thing is from that explosion. That's why
Oh,
that's
really?
there.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, I've
I'm
heard
glad
that from
somebody else
other
knows
sources.
that.
So you're not. Yeah, that's
I've also
corroborating.
heard that a theory that it could it looks like a mining operation also, but it's probably from the remnants of Meldeck. So
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
obviously they're, you know, we're being, you know, they're throwing everything they have at us right now. And you mentioned in a previous interview that they used your heart. They use our hearts to lower our vibration. And can you expand on that and how they're actually doing that? Because I agree with that, and I think that is the ultimate weapon.
Well, with the frequencies off the cell towers, I mean, it's a harp,
Mhm.
and I can hear it. You know, I know when they turn it on last night that they turned it on at 7 o'clock. I always look at the clock. I was like, there they go again. You know, and if you use music and go to sleep with music, it won't affect you. It will actually cancel it out. That works because otherwise you wake up foggy headed and tired.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's every freaking night they do it. I mean, I don't care where I am. I've been all over the United States and they're still doing it. And I was just overseas. I don't hear it as much over there, but they do chemtrail in Europe everywhere. I mean, it's
Mhm.
crazy. There was another thing I'm going to say. Yeah, it's plus Meldeck. I wanted to tell you that Jupiter, the red lines of Jupiter, those are from Meldeck, the dust from Meldeck too.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
which was
Interesting.
I thought was interesting. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
in
actually,
the book. Oh, sorry, real quick. In the book, you talk about how every chakra vibrates at a different frequency, and they intentionally beam frequencies to disrupt each different chakra. So the sacral, the root, the heart, they all have different frequencies, and they're intentionally beaming disruptive to each one of those.
Yeah. It's they were using D a lot. I haven't checked. I usually can take my tuning fork to find out what key they're using. And here it is. If they're playing a key, let's say that they play the same key for 10, 8 to 10 hours. It's gonna blow up that chakra. It's going to like dismantle it. It's going to really mess it up. So a lot of times, if it's D, that's your sacral chakra. That's your emotion. So people can either go crazy or get stuck in their emotions or don't have any emotions. I mean, it affects everybody
down.
differently.
Yeah.
So but yeah, and they don't change it. They just keep that same tone all night long. And so like I said, if you play music and go to sleep to music, with headphones or your TV or whatever, it's fine. It really shuts it down. It really cancels it out, which is good.
It's interesting because I misheard you on that interview. I thought you said they used our heart to lower our vibration, which they do. They create, situations. They create heartbreak in every aspect.
They attack the heart.
They attack the heart. Yeah. Yeah. It's always all the situations is, nobody's really, no one understands what true unconditional love is. But, whenever we start to feel it and it seems like it's ripped away from us. And I think a lot of the dark forces are behind some of the heartbreak that we experience. And that also keeps you in a lower vibration. So that's what I thought you meant, but it is just as true, I believe.
Yeah. Well, every place I don't know why or how they choose the certain keys. Certain places are the key of G, the throat chakra, so that shuts down your being able to speak your truth, and your communication. Can't communicate with people.
Right.
So it shuts that down. I guess certain areas. In Mexico, or New Mexico, they talked about the hum there. And that was in the key of E, which is your soul, your soul, your main purpose, your personal power. And it was loud. It's the loudest I've ever heard it. I mean, everyone could hear that one because a lot of people don't hear the other ones. And I was there, and it was all night long, and it messes up people's personal power, your self-worth. Okay, so because these are all but the chakras definitions are, and that's why I work with the chakras and the chakra journey. It's very, very, very important to be fully activated, and that will expand your awareness and, remembering who you are helps you remember all kinds of your gifts, and you're remembering who you are and why you're here. And every chakra is very important. There's a lot of people, I live in Sedona, a lot of people go, oh, I just like the higher chakras. Oh, well, and they're very creative, but they can't seem to manifest anything. And that's why you need your root chakra activated and the root chakra connects with the earth, so you can manifest things and bring them to earth. So it's very, very important to have all your chakras work together and they work together as one. So every single one is important, as a system.
Yeah. So how do you think they're actually emitting that frequency through the 5G towers, satellites, the HARP stations like in Alaska and Antarctica? Is it all the above? Or do you,
I think it's the towers. I really do, because I can hear it coming from that side of my house where the towers are.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I know those towers. Like I can look at them and you feel sick almost just when you look at them. I mean, you're just being around them. I just can't take it. I know in my heart, in my soul that is not, they're no good.
Well, here's something funny. I was out hiking here in Sedona, and they had I don't know, some kind of shed on the land. It looked like it was locked up, but they had, those drums they put on the towers. I call them drums.
Yeah.
The circles.
Yep.
I call them drums. And they had one. They had one in the shed, and it was outside the shed, and it was open. And it was a big speaker inside.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Frequency.
That's
that tone out. Why you don't need that to for internet, or what I mean.
Correct. And it's the same technology. If you research the voice of God or voice to skull technology, it's the same, those drums, it's a similar thing. And they can actually use that to being voices into people's heads too, and they can make them hear
Interesting.
things. And
See that.
and they apparently use homeless people as guinea pigs, and
Oh.
that's why a lot of the homeless people, you see them talking to themselves. They're not actually they're being used as a lab rat, and they're
Oh,
testing this
wow.
technology on them.
I
They
didn't
use
know that.
MK Ultra along with that, and a lot of these like false flags that we see are done by. It's like every single person, you'll see them say, "I was hearing voices. I was hearing voices. I was hearing voices. They were
Right.
telling me to do this." Things like that.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
That's what
use
that is.
discernment. This is very important. Use discernment. And if anybody tells you anything negative and what a negative thing to do, don't just stop. That's a negative voice. That's a satanic voice. That's an evil
Right.
voice, evil agenda. No, you have your own mind. Don't let them can take over your mind.
Right.
Right.
It's intrusive thoughts
Right. And
is what I call them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've heard the stories. Well, they told me to do it. It's like, don't you have your own mind? You know that's not right. Then don't do it.
basically demons, demonic entities, and
Aaron,
things like that. You talked a little bit about that.
You froze for a second,
What?
Aaron. Aaron
that?
you froze for a
I
second.
froze.
You're back now.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So
Okay.
going back to kind of some of the stuff that they told you about the times right now, and like it feels like everything they're doing is ultimately going to backfire, and I don't see it. They're showing us what they want to do, and they're telling us what their plans are because they have to tell us. But I don't see, just like they're shooting themselves in the foot every step of the way.
Yeah. Okay, let me correct that because a lot of people say that they think, oh, if we tell you, they won't get karma. No, they tell you so you actually help them manifest that.
Right.
So when they tell you, oh, we're going to do this, and it's like, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, you're giving it energy. You're manifesting it with them and for them. So don't. So that's another thing. It's like, I tell everybody, stop watching the lies and on the media. I'm going to tell you, there's 80%, I'm going to say 70 to 80% light here on the planet. We just see the dark. So we think the whole thing is dark. We think everything is dark, and it's not. We got only 20, 30% at the most darkness. And it's a small group, right? As a small elite group that is taking over the planet. But no, it's only because they control the whole media. Look at all the movies. They're all,
Right.
doom and gloom, if you ask me, fighting and war. And, oh, here's the saviors, and they're all fighting. It's always war. Constant.
They want you focused on that, right? So then you're feeding into, you're helping to manifest it. Like you said, they control the media and all things that you're seeing on the screens and hearing on the radio and seeing on the internet.
Everything.
And blah, blah, blah.
Not just if you don't
Turn
watch
it off. Stop feeding it. That's it.
Yes. So yeah, anything they're saying, just tell them. Anytime you hear them say, "We're going to do this," just say, "Cancel that now," and that's our power. We can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, just be very in your power, and now is the key word. Cancel that now.
Right. And you're 100% right. They need us to co-create their reality because they know our manifestation abilities, and they don't have those abilities because they're not in their heart. And so they need us to create that reality for them. So when we cancel now, or do not consent, that is taking our power back. And it might not seem like it's doing anything, but it really is. Energetically, it has a lot more power than we probably can perceive.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if everybody starts thinking and knowing to think that way, they'd be gone in an instant. They'd be dismantled, and it's going to backfire on them. It's already backfiring on them. Things are already have backfired on them. They wanted to start World War III a long time ago, and all these things are lies. I mean, Russia, they were Ukraine, they were blowing up their own buildings and telling everybody that's Russia.
Right. Yeah.
Lies.
100% agree. Yes.
And telling people that there weren't biolabs and there were, and all the other,
No, there is biolabs there.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But they're like, no, totally not. And they're like, oh, wait, actually, yeah, there are. Yeah. Don't look at that. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about that.
There is some international news I watch, because it's totally different than America. And like they said that Palestine came in and chopped off the heads and did all this gross stuff. And they said that was all lies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Lies.
Yeah.
Lies.
Yeah.
To make everybody think bad about the Palestinians. And they said they didn't do half that stuff. It was Israel again bombing, wanting to take over the land, to have
Yeah.
it all to themselves and do
Right.
what they want, which they have, agenda of building, by the Suez Canal. So why do you have to kill people to do that?
Right.
Why don't you just go, hello, I'd like to do this. What do you think about that? Can we negotiate?
Well, yeah.
Hello,
Right.
simple as that.
It was William Cooper said in, I think, like 1992, and probably even before that. He's like, the create the modern day state of Israel has nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has everything to do with they needed an excuse to start World War III, like you just said.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they were using that as the excuse to start World War III and do all these false flags.
And fake the revelations and
Right. Fake. Yeah, exactly.
and I think Israel was created in 1947. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So anyway, getting back to some of your experiences, there was one story you told where you were driving and you got lost and you ended up at this restaurant and you actually realized that you might have been on a craft. Can you tell that story? Because I find that very fascinating.
Oh, yeah. That was I was actually at a UFO conference and I met this guy Jim and I just knew him like immediately. Like, what do I know you from? Your long lost family. And he just smiled, like smirked, and I'm like, and then I met he was there and he had a table. Anyway, him and his mom, and he goes, "Oh, come over for dinner." He goes, "It's only 30 minutes to get to my house." I said, "All right." So I driving, and long story short, I was about 2 to 3 hours to get to his house, and but there was only one road, and he said, "Go over the bridge and take a right." Well, I'm driving this one road. There was no bridge anywhere, and all of a sudden, the road started repeating itself. It started repeating. It started going the same curve, same tree, same curve, same tree, and I'm like going, "What is going on here?" I was in a hologram, I found out. So I was trying to use my cell phone. The cell phone didn't work. And to call him, going, "Where the hell am I?" And then I see this restaurant bar, and they had a payphone out front that was in the 90s. And I said, "Oh, let me call him on the payphone." Well, the payphone didn't work. I'm like, "Oh, this is like Twilight Zone." So I'm in this parking lot, and it's the sign of the restaurant said open, but there's not one car in the parking lot. Okay. So I walk in, and the place is packed. Right? Where is everybody parking in the
Mhm.
middle of nowhere?
With
I mean, I
no
had
cars in the parking lot.
no cars and there was no houses for miles.
Right.
And I'm going, okay. So, and the place is, like I said, packed. And then I asked the bartender, I said, I'm looking for the bridge. Is it back this way? And everybody looks at me and goes, turns around at the same exact time and nods their head. Yes. Just like that. And then these two guys were talking and they sounded like they were talking about quantum physics. And I said, well, maybe they were at the UFO conference. I don't know. And he goes to the other guy, he goes, "Do you think she knows where she is?" And I heard him and I said, "No, I don't know where I am because I'm looking for the bridge." Well, they didn't mean that.
Yeah.
They meant something totally different, that I was on the ship. "Do you think she's on the ship?"
Yeah. He said, do you think she knows where she is?
Right. That's what he
Yeah.
said. And I said, "No, I don't know where I am." But he meant like, "Oh, yeah.
Like, he's like, no.
Yeah, she's on the ship." So I was on the ship. I was in a hologram. That's how that ended up. And I finally went over back, turned around, went back, and found the bridge. The bridge was almost a half a mile long. You could not miss this bridge. Okay. And so I went over the bridge, went back, got to Jim's house. And by that time it was 12 midnight. Yeah. And so I didn't know, that's all what I remembered until I got the regression from Dolores Cannon. But what was interesting, at Jim's house, there was this couple there, and I met sitting at the table. We all sat down, and there's a guy and a girl, and I go, "They look like the people, two of the people from the bar."
Mm.
Huh, interesting. Okay, I swear it felt like Twilight Zone. Total Twilight Zone. So they were talking, and the lady goes, "Oh, we'd love for you to come visit us on our island." And I'm saying, "Well, where's your island?" Because there was islands around there where I was. I'm thinking regular islands. And she was answering me all these questions. I said, "How many people are on your island?" She said 5,000, and we do work and we have relationships and blah blah blah. Well, I found out the island was their ship.
Yeah.
I told them, "Well, no, I got some other ideas I got to do." So, but I said, "Jim, have you been on this island?" He goes, "Oh yeah." Well, he lives on that island. He lives on the ship. He's a worker from the ship, and they come down. They were very positive, and coming down here to find out what's going on and helping as much as they can. So I have met mostly, I'll say 90% benevolent, loving ETs. Benevolent, loving ETs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how did you find, so that you met them at the conference then?
That group, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
so,
sure.
so you were, so that you're basically, that means that there's ETs that show up at these conferences and we would never tell them apart. They look exactly like us.
Yeah. Yes. They looked human. Um, when I had the regression for that situation, what happened was I was in the ship and I was laying down and they're doing a healing on me. So I used to smoke cigarettes back then, and they were doing a healing on my lungs. It was huge difference. And they did some kind of activation. And the person doing this was a praying mantis. He looked, I don't even know. I was laying down, I couldn't tell, 10, 12 feet tall, very tall, but he was very gentle. So there's other beings there. And everybody in that bar, nightclub, or bar restaurant was there and in the regression, and they were just and sitting on I don't know, like in the audience, like a theater, kind of just observing what the praying mantis was doing. And then they were all there. So they made it look like a whole different scene. That's what I'm trying to say than really what happened.
Right. And it's amazing that the technology that they have, I mean, you're driving and you have no idea the moment you're all of a sudden on a ship or in a hologram. Like that's how fluid it is. And we hear stories like that. But I
Yeah.
just I would love to understand how that actually happens, and how they pull that off and keep you safe and you know what I mean? And then and bring you back. And I guess they understand if the missing time is going to affect you or not. But if you were end up going and if you were on your way to their house anyway, so it didn't matter if you were late.
Well, remember when technology is advanced enough, it's indistinguishable from magic, right?
Right.
To
Yeah,
us, because when we're not used to it, we're like, wow, that looks like if you were to take our technology, go back 200 years and show it to people, they would think it's magic as well. And that's just 200 years or 100 years.
Right.
Now imagine thousands and hundreds of thousands, millions of years,
correct.
pure
Yeah.
magic.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I remember how they so smoothly, I thought I was on the road. And I remember the one part I do remember, but I didn't have time to stop to check them out. They had street lights, and I looked at the street lights and I did not see any poles. I just saw the balls of light lighting up the street. And I went, okay, that's strange. Well, definitely stop and look at that, but I'm late. So, but I do remember that. And so I don't know if everything was
Yeah.
a hologram. I don't, as far as I know.
Right. There's subtle indicators if you're paying attention. Right. But we're not expecting that for
And I mean, Star Trek is disclosure. So the holodeck, that's disclosure. That's on these ships. They have that, where you think you're in this whole world and it's all a hologram.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
oh man, there's so many experiences, but there was one where you encountered a police officer who was a
Oh, I don't want to
shapeshifter.
talk about that.
You
I get in
don't?
trouble for that one.
Okay. Well, if you guys want to hear that story, she told the story on the Dr. Sala interview. So,
And it's
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
book. It's in your book, or
Yeah,
well, one of them.
I got, yeah, after that I got banged a few times. People,
interesting.
yeah, calling me and questioning me about David Icke and the reptilians. How many reptilians do you know? And blah blah blah. and I could tell they were very
People
dark. And they
calling you like 3-letter agency people, you think?
I
Like people?
don't know exactly, but I know they start following you around. You know, I've had that.
Black
So,
SUVs. Yeah.
Right.
yeah, that's the. They don't want anybody to know. I was very nice to that officer, by the way.
You
Right.
were. Right.
You know, it's interesting. Oh, years
I'm
ago,
not afraid. So
No.
well, that's
Right.
good. I mean, if you're not afraid, they can't control you, and they're powerless. So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
years ago, we did an episode specifically on reptilians called "Reptilians Among Us," and it was like, you know, and I remember at that time experiencing a lot of dark energy surrounding that episode, and I know what you mean. Like whenever you talk too much, so.
they don't want anybody to know.
Yeah, they just
Um,
don't want people knowing. Yeah, like you said, like it's a huge threat to them for people to realize.
What is your experience with black triangle craft? Can you explain some of the black triangles? Can you explain what you were told that you think those are?
They were monitored. They were definitely monitoring me, and saw them in the daytime. They were small. They were small triangle crafts that they didn't make any sound and they can maneuver any way they wanted. I don't know if they were um, piloted or drones, but they would follow me around. And when I lived in Sarasota, Florida, and they totally monitoring me. And I have a friend, dear friend, he's Native American chief. He's a chief, Little Summer. He said the same thing. The triangle ships are monitoring us here. And he lived in Sarasota too. So and I know it's very high tech and it is from the ETs, but which ET group, I don't know. See, because usually the more benevolent or they're round, and the higher frequency they are, you'll see the balls of light. You'll
Right.
see nothing physical,
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what I witnessed on March 2nd of last year, actually.
Yeah, cool.
It was pretty profound.
And being in Sedona, being in Mount Shasta, at East City Ranch, these different like vortex locations. You just like every night you look up and you see lights flying around all over the place. And it's
Right.
Yeah.
those aren't satellites. Those aren't those aren't,
Yeah, they try to tell you that when you see the balls of light, those are satellites. Well, I did, and they say that to throw you off track. That's a lie, because the satellites, we can't see them; they're too far out.
And they said that how sometimes they look like they power up, they get really bright. The mainstream,
they power up, they
the
flash.
mainstream explanation is when that happens is that it's spinning and it's reflecting off of the sun at the exact spot. But I mean, it's hilarious if you've ever witnessed it.
Come up with anything, won't they?
I mean, I'm not kidding. That is their official explanation. If you're with like a skeptic, they're going to tell you that's what that big flash is.
Right. So what happens when they change directions, do a 90-degree angle, reverse, change speeds,
right.
disappear, appear, disappear, appear.
Well, they won't see that most of the time.
Right.
So you were there's an experience where you were on an airplane and the tire blew out and you had to be rerouted somewhere, and you had an experience there. Can you share that story?
Yeah, that was in Egypt. We took off from the Aswan airport, and instantly the tire blew out. It was big bang, and so we had to make an emergency stop at a military airport that was pretty close, and they took us out of the plane and put us into the building there, and they said, you guys get in there and you're not allowed to go outside, until we go back on the plane. So we were in there for a while. I looked back at the tire and it was shredded. And the doors that they have, it's a military, they're all guarded by guards with rifles and everything. And so I got kind of bored sitting around, after about an hour, and I went out and talked to the guard, and he was right by the door, so I didn't go very far. And I felt total ET experiences there. I mean, I could feel the energy. For some reason, I could feel it. I know it. And I looked over these sand dunes, and I saw a UFO or flying saucer, silver flying saucer round, come over the dune. And I went, oh, that's a worker ship. And the guy looks at me, looks at the ship, he looks at me, and he goes, get in there now, go back in there, and don't come out.
Mhm. Yeah.
That was my experience. I said, oh,
Wow.
okay,
So
they're working.
workership. What do you mean workership? How does that just intuitively you knew that?
Yes, intuitively, I knew that. Like they were transporting things, working. They were working. It wasn't like, oh, hey, I'm coming to visit you now, and say
Right.
hello. It was definitely they were working on something, transporting things. I don't know how I know. I just know it was a
Mhm.
worker ship. It's intuitively, yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So you wrote a book about Sedona, the rocks in Sedona, the faces in the rocks,
Mhm.
and I've seen the pictures on your website, and it's undeniable. And so this is something that's been coming up a lot on the internet and even on our show. Like, these are, I don't know if you want to call them petrified giants. What's going on with these faces in the rocks, but can you explain what you understand it is?
Well, it all started when I moved here like 23 years ago. I'm part Native American, and my uncle would always tell me, when you see the faces in the rocks, those are the ancient ones and the ancient knowledge. So I always look at rocks differently. So when I first moved to Sedona, I was like, oh my God, look at all these faces here. So many faces compared to any other rocks. I've been to Colorado and all these other rock, mountain formations. I've never
Utah.
seen many in my entire life. That you'd have to show some pictures to show people, but the I it was very magical what happened. I think it was the third week out. I was hiking everywhere, and a white flash went over my car, transported me into this whole different direction I wanted to go. It got me into a Long Canyon, it's called. I wanted to go to Boynton Canyon, which is to the left, and they brought me to the right. And my car, a big flash went over, it transported me there, and I'd stop. Swear to God. And I'm like, how did I get here? I remember a white flash, and I started turning around, and my spirit guides or star family came in and goes, go this way. So I said, all right, show me where you want me to go. So they pretty much about a mile down, they stopped me right after the parking lot, like in the middle of the road, and there was two mountains to the left and the right, so you could only see it there. That's why they stopped me there, and it was the Sphinx. And I went, oh, thank you for showing me this. This is like ancient Egypt. And that's where it all started. And now I found 14 major gods and goddesses of Egypt. I found other cultures too. I found 8 sphinxes all over Egypt.
You mean
And
in Sedona?
yes,
Yeah.
they're all in my book.
Mhm.
All of them are in my book.
Yeah, you talked about it in the Look Up book. Yeah.
Yeah. In the lookup book, it was I don't think it's in there. The lookup book.
You talk about the Sphinx. You talked about that story actually in that book. You said you
Oh, the
were led to
Sphinx.
the Sphinx, and then you
Yeah,
said
that was
later
the
on you
first
found more Sphinxes.
first started. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, and then I found Kuan Yin. Found Ganesh. I found different cultures. So to answer your question, I'm finding out from geologists, because I'm looking at the faces in the rocks. I'm finding out from geologists. They've looked at my book, and they said, "Did you know some of these are fossils?" Because I thought they were carvings. Uh, Actually, I do a drive tour, and I had a lady on my tour that works in a mine for 15 years, and she still works there. And she, first time in Sedona, she takes my tour. She goes, oh my God, look at all these cut lines. These are cut lines. There are cut lines everywhere, just like in the mine. These are not natural. So that was proof to me that a lot of these are sculptures. And I really feel it's like a library here. Like they wanted to keep the ancient knowledge. And but then there's some geologists say these 5 or 6 pictures here. I have like 100 something, hundreds of pictures in the book. They pointed about 5 or 6 pictures. They said these are fossils, and they're huge. Their faces are like 4 times bigger than ours. They're giants.
Yeah.
And some of them are Native American looking. Some are different different. You'd have to look at the book. I
Right.
mean, I can't even describe them, but they have two eyes, a nose, face, but they don't look like a normal, like what we look like. So
So you're saying by fossils, meaning they were fossilized, like it was like almost like a flash frozen, petrified giant. Somehow they were frozen in stone.
somehow, yeah, like some kind of mud fossil. They never explained to me how something like that would happen, but they said it definitely fossils.
And
Yeah.
and then so we're looking at a major ancient civilization in Sedona or in the whole Southwest area, in my opinion, that we just don't know about, right?
Don't know about it. It's lost history. My spirit guide said it's over 10 to 12,000 years old. That's how old it is.
Right.
Goes back to Atlantis times. Yeah.
Atlantean times, definitely. Because and the spirits talk to me. I found Thoth in two places. He's actually one of my guides. And after I found him the second time, he tells me, he goes, now find the kings and the queens. And I'm like, what? So he made me aware that he's talking about the kings and queens of Atlantis. So, and there was a flood there. I mean, there was a huge flood, remnants of a flood in Sedona. You can
Oh,
see
yeah.
it. That's what made the rocks red. The rocks were originally white, and there's white ones on top, and then there's red ones on the lower area, and those are iron ore based, and the water turned them red. So that's how, a lot of people go, oh, is this from Mars? No, it's not. It's iron ore based. So the point is, so that first week when he made me aware of the kings and queens, I found 3 sets of kings and queens. And now in the book, I forgot I lost count how many I found in there, 8, 9, 10, they're all there. It's all, they're all perfect visions that you can't deny it. When you look, you go, oh my God.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, first
Yeah.
time I went to Sedona, it was just screaming at you. Like it was all underwater once. I mean, it was just, it's evidence of you're in the floodplain basically.
Right.
And not just Sedona, but I've been all over the Southwest, and it's very similar. And there was some sort of catastrophe, cataclysm, something happened that caused these mud fossils, I guess you could say.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The floods. There was supposed to be 2 floods. I've done my research on the floods 6,000 years ago, and then one about 13,000 years ago. So they always
Yeah.
talk about the one, but there's 2. Actually, I heard there's more than that, but that's the latest 2.
And that's where we get the Noah's Ark story, right? And Gilgamesh and these ancient our ancient texts all have these different versions of the same like mass flood story, right? Well, that's where they come from. They were real events that gets passed down.
They were, yeah, absolutely.
But they get distorted, and the teachings get distorted. That's a lot of things.
Sure, yeah. I mean, like you tell your friend something that happened, to you, and then a week later he's telling somebody else. The story changes already,
Right.
So,
Right.
Telephone game.
yeah. So
Exactly.
who knows exactly what happened, unless you go into the Akashic records now. That's
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that does happen. I've had people reach out to me after listening to one of my interviews and said, I had the same experience where you said this happened to you. I'm like, no, that's actually not what I said. You misheard me. But they heard like what they wanted to hear because it was similar to what they experienced, and I had to correct them. But it's amazing, like just that quick with somebody, it will just hear something different even when you're passing along information. But you have experience with the crystal skulls also. And I was just recently down in Belize, and I went to the original location where the Mitchell Hedges skull was found. There's a lot of controversy around around that skull, that it was never even, that it's man-made or it was a hoax. Like if you go to that site, that they don't tell you that it was. They say that this is where it was apparently found. It's not even like a solidified fact. Whenever I was asking the people on site, so. But I believe that it was a real crystal skull. But what's your experience with those skulls?
Well, the Mitchell Hedges skull is definitely from Belize. I've had a interaction with that, and just transformed me. Like I just went into a whole different world. Did you get into the temple there? Did they allow you in that temple in Belize?
Which one? Maybe
The
not because
one, the one that Mitchell Hedges' skull was from.
oh, no, they didn't allow us into any temple. I was all over that site, but I didn't know that there was even a temple to go into. We got,
Like a temple pyramid kind of thing.
Well, next
y-
time you go, next.
well, it was so weird because it hadn't rained in months there. And while we were on that site, like the hardest rain they've experienced I mean, it just downpoured. Like it was almost like flash flood. And we got rained out and we didn't get to finish that day. And, but it was really interesting. So I didn't know that there was, and what's even funnier is that this guy who we thought was our tour guide was walking us around the site and we got back to the main building and we're like, yeah, your guide was nice. So they're like, what guide? And they're like, yeah, the guy gave us a tour. And he's like, he doesn't work for, that's not, he doesn't work for us. So some guy gave us this like tour of the whole site and then took money from us. But he didn't even work there. It was interesting. But so maybe that's why we didn't find a temple. But tell me about this temple.
Well, the only reason I asked was because I was down in that area and they said that it's closed to the public. You're not allowed to go in there. So I didn't even, I was probably about 20, 15, 20 miles away. And they said, no one's allowed in there. So I didn't bother going. And I kind of kicked myself in the butt. I should at least drove by, but I didn't because I was so close, but yeah, the skulls, very, very activational. They're total energy. They have so much knowledge in each one of them. The real ones. There's supposed to be 13 of them.
Mhm.
I think they've found 12, and when the 13 come together, um, I don't know. They're major libraries. Let me just put it that way. And they do have energies because when I was doing a concert for a Crystal Skull conference with three or four other people, we're all sound healers actually and musicians. And who I say the owner of the producer, he had three major skulls there and he put them in front of the stage, put a strobe light underneath them, turned the lights off, and we started playing. And I left my body. I was playing hand drums, standing up, and I could still play the hand drums, but I could not feel the ground. And I was leaving my body, and I could hear everything. You couldn't see anybody in the audience because he turned the lights off. But I was just totally in two worlds at the same time. Is the best way I could say. And then they wanted me to turn the light on, and I said I can't because I can't feel the ground. I cannot do that. But finally, after about 10 minutes, I finally said, okay, I can do it now. And I walked down these three stairs, little stairs, but I couldn't do it before. And I put the light on, and the whole audience was out. I mean, not out, like passed out. They were totally in a different world. So it affected the whole audience too. That's what I'm saying.
You said other mouths were open and they were
Yeah.
just like somewhere else for a few
Totally
minutes.
like,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, look at that,
Right.
Yeah, so the skulls, just like probably all crystals, but the skulls in particular are record keepers. Like you said, they're a library of knowledge. And I guess if you are the right frequency, you can tap into it and it might be able to share that information with you.
Yeah, that's interesting because the rest of the band members were not affected, but people in the audience, I don't know if everybody, like a good 3/4 of the audience was affected. I'm going to say that. And yeah, but the rest of the musicians weren't. I told them about it. Didn't you experience that? They said no. So I don't know why it affects Mitch's Hudge's skull. I know I'm somehow connected because that's from Belize and that's where I had past life from as a high priestess, and I found that out at a conference. So there is some kind of energetic connection, definitely with that. So maybe that's why I got affected and some other people didn't.
No, likely, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
there's people that I know, like there's crystal skull shows and conferences, right? Like you said, and there's people that will sit with them and not feel anything. And then the other people will have this profound experience that will transform them. So it all depends on the individual.
Right.
We were supposed to be a part of a Crystal Skull conference in Sedona actually in November, which Neil Gower of Portal to Ascension was putting on. And then he
canceled.
postponed it.
Where was that being held?
The Creative Life Center, I believe, the main, venue there.
It never happened.
It didn't have. They postponed it. He postponed it to next year because he was worried about the C word stuff coming back. He thought the ticket sales wouldn't be good enough, I think. But we might be doing it next year. We might be a part of it next year. Who knows?
Yeah, I know Neil because I heard he canceled it. And I was like, wow, that was quick.
I know, we were bummed too. Like we had bought our plane tickets and everything, and then
I don't remember if this was in from a page from your book or where I saw this, but you mentioned that the middle pyramid in Egypt is a stargate.
Oh, absolutely.
And you discovered that. How did you discover
that? Well, I was in the middle pyramid doing a toning with this girl. We went by horseback, and the guy guiding the horses, our guide, said, he goes, okay, well, it's a long ways back, so don't be in there long. So I said, okay, we're only going to be in there 10, 15 minutes. So we went in and it toned, me and her toned. And then all of a sudden, this female voice comes in. And I said to the girl, I said, is that you singing? She goes, no, I thought that was you singing. I'm like, okay, no. And then all of a sudden, this Japanese group came in, and my eyes are closed. Both our eyes are closed. And they tapped me on the shoulder, and I opened my eyes. In this group, they were moving like when you fast forward a movie. But you fast forward a movie, that's how fast they were going. It's impossible to move that fast. And I went, oh, okay. So then he asked to take a picture, and I did. And then we left. I mean, how long, we'd only towed for like 10, 15 minutes at the most. Left and went back to where the horses were. And the guy started yelling at us, and he goes, you said you're only going to be in there 10, 15 minutes. You've been in there an hour and a half. And I'm like, when I looked at the girl, I was like, what? No way. So we totally got missing time. It was not, I don't call it missing time. We were totally transported into a whole different dimensional time. That's what I call it. And because they were moving really fast. Now, when I was in the Great Pyramid, I didn't feel any of that kind of energy. I felt ascension, yes. And I felt activations, yes. But it felt really solid there, like more denser, a little denser than the middle pyramid. I felt, totally just take off. And
can you say real quick what you were told about what the king's chamber actually was and what the queen's chamber was for, the real purpose?
In the
Great Pyramid, in the Great Pyramid.
It depends on your experience. I mean,
like with the original purpose, I think in the book you said you were told that it was an ascension chamber. The king's chamber was an ascension chamber, and the queen's was for healing, was the original purpose.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of purposes. It's more than one. And the Great Pyramid is for helping stabilize the earth too, for her not shifting her axis so dramatically, and that's what the pyramids all over the earth. They're finding there's so many thousands of pyramids now around the earth that help stabilize and connect us with our other star family or planets, to connect us. And so, and it was energy, for energy chambers, for energy. They said in the Atlantean days that the pyramids could actually generate energy and then transmit it to whole cities to light up whole cities,
I believe that 100%. And possibly even used to manipulate weather in a good way. I've heard that before. So
yeah, in a good way, right?
And then, so whenever you had that experience of shifting into another dimension, is that when you realized that the pyramid was a Stargate, or did that information come from somewhere else?
Yeah, I felt that we definitely went some Stargate. It's more of a portal, opening of a portal. Absolutely. And I realized it then, and it was totally felt totally different than the main Great Pyramid to me. Then there's other experiences I had there. The next time I was in the Great Pyramid, I brought a group and we all toned, and I used the heaven and earth tone symbol or activational tones. And that all of a sudden Tibetan monks started chanting. That's the best way it sounded. Everyone could hear it. There were like a dozen, that low, however they chant. I can't do it. And there's a temple guard there. They're always a temple guard. They have a long robe on, and they're like just watchers of the pyramids. And I said to him, I said, "Is there speakers in here?" And he said, "No." He goes, "You just activated the pyramid." And I'm like, "Whoa!" All through sound.
Yep. That's, I mean,
Wow.
that is the key to all of that technology is sound. Well, the sound is a technology itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's incredible. And, one last thing that I think was from your book, whenever you left the pyramid and you were running late, the group was back at the bus and you were running late and you were taken through this door in the mountain. And can you tell that story?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Abu Simbel, way south of in Egypt.
Nubia. I've been there. So I just went to Egypt back in April. Carrie Cassidy led a trip that I went on.
Oh, wonderful,
Actually.
wonderful.
And all the sites you're talking about in the book, I was like, I've been there, been there. We went to all those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abu Simbel was awesome.
It is. Yeah.
We were running late, and it seemed like we just got there, and I said, "No, there's much more I got to connect with here." And so the group went up, and they went up on the bus, and I said, "I'm staying here. I don't care. We don't have nothing after this anyway," kind of thing. I need another 15, 20 minutes. And then the temple guard said, "Oh, you're going to be late for your bus. You're going to be late for your bus. Go through this doorway." So I said, "Okay." So I went through the doorway, and there was a stairway inside the mountain that brought us back up to the top of where the buses were. And I went, I felt very ET in there. And I felt somebody watching me the whole time, like I was being observed. I felt that too. Not in a like military way.
Yeah.
Yeah, more like, just observing my energy kind of thing. So I get back up there, and I said to the Egyptologist, I said, "Oh," he goes, "How did you get here so this way?" I said, "I went through inside the mountain, through the doorway." He goes, "There's nothing in there. What are you talking about? You can't go climb inside the mountain. There's nothing in there. Or there's no way to get in there." So the Egyptologists don't even know, I guess, about this
didn't even know.
secret doorway,
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and also in the book, you said that talking to the Egyptologist who was giving you a lot of the, the typical mainstream narrative. Ours did the same thing. He was giving it was funny because he would give like the mainstream narrative, and then Carrie Cassidy would come later and be like, "All right, I think that's all BS. Here's what I think this actually." It was hilarious. And our group is all on that level, so we're all like, "Yep, that makes sense."
They're not allowed to say the truth. I'm sorry.
And you even said talking to him, he literally told you that he knows a bunch of what he talks about is BS, but he's not allowed to say a bunch of the truth because it's off. They don't. He's like, "I would lose my job and I would be put in jail maybe."
Yeah. So they're the highest paid people there is the Egyptologists, and they go out of the curriculum that, what they've been taught for 4 years, then they can lose their job. And he didn't like me when I was telling the group, because he was saying, "Oh, this hieroglyph says this." I said, "No, it doesn't."
No, it doesn't.
And he just gave me dirty looks, and I'm like, okay. So
that's funny.
I mean, yeah, you're like, I'm seeing a Stargate, I'm seeing a ship,
right?
A spaceship, I'm seeing laser weapons, I'm seeing reptilian beings and all these different ET beings, giants. A computer, that is a computer right there, like
right.
And then he's telling us like the stuff that we're like, come on, there's
Yeah, he was saying that, "Oh, these are all the pharaoh's life stories." I said, "No, they're not. There's so much information here." In Saqqara, I said, "Oh my God, there's tons, like so many different levels of information. It's like a library in there. And the SETI temple, that was a creation story. I said, this is the creation story. I said, the Egyptologist again looks at me like, oh, geez.
Yeah, he's rolling his eyes. Yep.
Well,
I'm bringing a group in 2025 January. They can go to my website in a couple, like at the end of January, I'll have that site up. But we're gonna go in January because January is the best time to go. It's not hot. It's very hot there. And we're walking around inside the temples, inside the pyramids. It is hot. So January is perfect, 70 degrees, and it's less tourists there.
Less people.
right.
So we have a place to ourselves, and I love it.
I just read that they canceled travel to Egypt. I don't know if it's true. I saw it was like a mainstream article, but right now, like all tours have been stopped for the beginning of like next year.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know why. So is there anything?
Sorry. There's one more thing, if you don't mind talking about. When you went to Chichen Itza, and you went in an area that you weren't supposed to go in, that was supposed to be off limits.
Like that one, yeah.
And you saw some beings.
Yeah, it was March 21st, the spring equinox, and it's roped off, and you're not allowed to go climb the pyramid. And actually, they stopped people from climbing that pyramid, I think in 2006 or 8 or something. But this was in 1998. And I said, well, this is my first time at Chichen Itza. And I said, I didn't come this far not to touch the temple or touch the pyramid, you know?
Right.
I'm very brave. Okay. So I said, oh, look there's a doorway there. I'm going to go right in that doorway. And I said to the girl with me, I was with a group, the shamanic group. And I said, watch my back. And she said, I went in there and she said, I disappeared before I even went through the doorway. This is broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I didn't want to be seen. Yeah, they throw me in jail for who knows how long, and never get out. So I got in there and I looked around and it was pitch black. There's no lights on. So I can use my third eye. So I used my third eye to see what was there. I found a stairway. So I went up the stairway with my third eye, not climbing, and 6 to 8 grays, I forget how many now, 6 grays came running down the stairway and said to me, no, you're not allowed to be in here. Now, this is all through mental telepathy. We didn't speak words. And they looked more afraid of me than I was of them. They were going, no, you can't be in here. You've got to go. And they were kind of robotic, but had emotions. And I said, okay, don't worry, I'm leaving. And I backed out of there. And the lady said I came out of nowhere. And she goes, where'd you come from? There's thousands of people there at this time because of the spring equinox. I'm thousands. And I said, well, she goes, what's in there? I said, oh, some grays are hanging out and I'm not sure what they're doing.
That's wild.
To this day, do you not know what they were doing, or do you have speculation?
Well, the equinoxes and the, solstice are very powerful times when the portals open for the planet,
Yeah, absolutely.
So seriously, I mean, people might not think that's real or a big deal. It's a big deal. So I don't know what they were doing. I really don't.
I was there at Chichen Itza on December 21st, 2021 for the winter solstice. And it was funny because the whole trip, I noticed while I was in Mexico, I didn't see one single chemtrail. And I was telling my friend, I was like, this is how planes are supposed to look when they fly,
Right.
And that day, on the solstice, directly above the pyramid, the big pyramid, they were chemtrailing. Like on the solstice,
like
over the pyramid site. And I'm just like, this is not a coincidence at all.
Yeah. That just happened to me this year. I was in Bosnia at the Sun Pyramid that Sam found. Well, I was with his group. And we were there the summer solstice. And they were chemtrailing, while we're there. It's so polluted in Bosnia. It's in Bosnia. It's very polluted. They have every car is diesel there. Okay. Now, imagine the smell.
Right.
Okay. But now summer solstice. Oh my God. I've never seen such heavy chemtrailing in my life. They were in the morning. I don't even know. I got up about 6. It was chemtrailing for who knows hours. It was layers all day, all morning, all afternoon, all night on summer solstice. And I went, oh, geez, they know, the portal's opening. And I go, you guys already covered the sky 10 feet thick. Stop already, I kept saying. And they wouldn't. They didn't. And it was sad, just to see that.
Right. Well,
Well, that's
hopefully those are.
the cabal is desperate, like you said earlier. They're doing everything they can to stop the ascension.
Yeah.
But even though they can't, they're just trying to delay it, basically.
Now we're going into the golden age, and the frequency is high, that they
Mhm.
can't survive in this. So they think that these lower frequencies from the cell towers and HARP and all these chemtrails and all that is going to lower the frequency. It lowers our frequency. Yes, it does lower the frequency, but it's inevitable for Mother Earth. She's going to be raising the frequency, and it goes connected with the solar system and the galaxy, that it's inevitable that we're being pulled up,
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And it's isn't it the Hopi prophecy that says something along the lines of like, when we see the sky covered in spider webs, then we'll know it's the end times. So, and
does
that's
that
the
sound
spider
like you?
webs sound like chemtrails.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's true. Yeah.
You just reminded me of something. One more thing. I'm sorry. You just
That's
reminded
okay.
me. The Hopi prophecy of the red Kachina. So we hear about the blue Kachina, but the red Kachina, which I believe you talked about in the book, you said in around 2012, people start seeing a second sun, and that's actually Nibiru, and that you got like a download of what that was and what they were doing, if you remember that. But where was I going with that? Yeah, so they said, oh yeah, we came in the times that you would call Atlantis, and we accidentally basically caused a bunch of earthquakes because the magnetic pull of the planet or their craft disrupted. So they're like, this time we're going behind the sun.
Mhm.
And but now there's all kinds of people in the last, I mean, at least the
Yeah.
last 10 years, there's people getting videos of a second sun of like a red,
Yeah.
And Tyler, you just shared something today on Instagram.
I don't think that's Nibiru. I think that is something else going on that we what they're kind of saying, it's the new world sun. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Is that the new Earth sun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That makes
Yeah.
a lot of
To
sense.
me right now.
People are filming
I've heard that before till just now. So
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, people are filming two suns, and whether or not the footage is real or
I've
not,
seen
it's
it.
showing up on the internet in the past year. And I witnessed what looked like a second moon one night while I was walking my dogs, and I never bring my phone with me, but it was a crescent. It was like a thumbnail moon,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was way bigger than our moon. Our moon was
It
behind
blue?
us. Yeah, it was. What?
Was it bluish or darker gray?
Well, I couldn't. It was kind of cloudy, so I couldn't tell the actual color of it, but I could see it.
I have a picture of one. I have a picture of that.
Really?
Yeah, and it was so obvious, and it was connected. It was a moon. It was full moon night, and then there was another moon, and the light of the full moon shined on this other planet. I don't. It looked kind of like the moon, but it was bigger and it was blue.
Yeah, it
And
was
I do
much
have a
bigger.
photo of that. If I was ready, I could bring that out. I got to figure out where that is, but it will blow your mind because I did take a photo of it. And I just got back from Cabo San Lucas. I've been traveling a lot this year.
Nice.
And I took some sunset pictures, and I keep looking at I just started looking at the pictures like yesterday or day before. And I have these pictures, and I said, I know my camera's not that blurry, but I see two suns. And and everything else is sharp and clear. And I'm thinking it was just my camera blurring out. I don't think so, because everything is sharp and clear, except it looks like two suns. And I can actually send you those pictures because you're not going to broadcast till later. So I can send
absolutely.
you can show them on your site. I will send you to those pictures. I can email them to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. If you could email them, that would be
Yeah, I
great.
would love to see that. We'll just put them on the screen here while we're
I wish I
talking
could show
about
them to
this.
you right now, but it was like I gotta find them, in my
Sure.
tons of photo album.
Well, it's okay. Man, I have so many things written down. I'm like, we weren't lying when you
Yeah.
have a million experiences. So I
Right.
know.
There's so much.
So wait, I just did a pyramid conference in Chicago. You guys are in Illinois, right?
Well,
St. Louis.
Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri,
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
close.
right.
Right
oh,
on the border, though, kind of.
Illinois one. Hmm.
Well, our conference is in Grafton, Illinois, right on the other, just into Illinois.
Oh, okay,
St.
okay.
Louis metro area, though, still.
Yeah. Yeah, I just did a conference up in that area, kind of.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yeah. I think I heard about that one, actually. I heard about that one.
Yeah, the pyramid
Chicago.
conference. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
That sounds like it.
Nice.
Well, I guess just to we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Maybe we could do this again one day and get into some other stories, but
Yeah, the Faces in the Rocks, Ancient Egypt Found would be a whole separate one because we need to show pictures to people because otherwise they won't get it until they see the evidence, or it's undeniable.
right.
Right.
Do you
I
have
agree.
a copy of that book or no?
No.
Okay,
No.
I can email you a PDF on that. So
Oh, that'd be
thank
great.
you.
yeah, so if you'd like to do another show on that, because this is really big, it's huge. Finding Egypt here is a 20-year project, like I said, and it needs to get out to the world. I will tell you this part of that story. I had two archaeologists. I took them on the tour two different times, two separate times, 6 months apart. And the one guy, they both said, "Oh my God, it is real. This is real. This I can't believe you found them all, and they're all next to each other. That's unheard of." And they said, "Yes, we'll definitely give you an excellent write up and testimony and all this." Well, both of them, when they got home, they said, "I can't do it. I'm not gonna be able to send you anything. It might ruin my career."
Yeah, they don't need that
Not
narrative
surprised.
getting out.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
wait a minute. Why don't you turn it around? And go. This is gonna expand your career. This is gonna like mind
Thank
blow.
you.
It's like they're in fear.
Right.
Or how about, humanity? Like
Right.
like we need to know this. That's your career is more important than that,
Right.
like
A
Yeah.
paycheck.
Wait a minute. This
all
could
fear.
blow up your career in a good way.
right.
lose-
And it probably is. Yeah. Exactly.
I'll lose any job to share the truth. I mean, that's where I'm at. Like,
Me too.
Yeah.
I don't give a crap. About
right.
that. Right.
And we just did a documentary on the Cahokia Mounds that I don't know if you're familiar with, but that's in Illinois, Southern Illinois, and Southern Illinois is known as Little Egypt, and all the towns are named after Egyptian
What?
cities.
There's
Yeah.
Cairo, Illinois.
That
There's
information. I need to put that in my book too, in my talks. I do live talks at conferences, and I found ancient Egypt down in Mexico. I found it, and they have in Phoenix. They have Little Egypt, a place called Little Egypt. And
Well,
and Lake Powell, they have found hieroglyphs. So they found Egypt hieroglyphs there. Grand Canyon, they
Grand
have
Canyon. Yeah.
all the pyramid temples looking things on the North Rim are all named after Egyptians. It's all like 2 hours away from from Sedona. Come
Right.
on.
Right.
Now,
But
so-
yeah, Southern Illinois, they've found like this is a guy named Harry Hubbard who he has all the artifacts. We actually filmed it's in our documentary that Tyler just mentioned, our Cahokia Mountains documentary. He shows all these Egyptian artifacts. They've been dated to be proven to be 1800 plus years old, and they are Egyptian artifacts that were found in like caves in Illinois. So they were in the Midwest. They were all over North America, not just in that
I
one
need
area.
that for my book because I'm always researching and getting that in there. You'll see my book. I have one page of lots of different things. And I would love to get that testimony for my book. That would be great. Or,
Yeah, well, we'll send you the documentary. You can watch it. It's on our YouTube channel, but it's Cahokia, the Cahokia Mounds, the Untold Story. But
yeah, send me the link.
Yeah, I'll send you the link whenever we're done here. But
Clifford
if Brent,
Mahoody's in it, if you know.
yeah, Clifford Mahoody.
That?
But
Do you know Clifford Mahoody, the Zuni elder? Yeah, he's in it.
Oh, Clifford. Yeah, I've known. I had a conference going on for 7 years called Sedona Cosmic Awakening, and he spoke at every single one of them.
Nice.
Yeah, he's great. And for the audience who hasn't seen the documentary yet, you can watch it on our YouTube channel or cahokiauntold.com, and you can find the information there. And we have bonus footage for the documentary on our Patreon if you want to go over there and sign up. That link is below. It's only $5. So do you want to let people know how they can find you, your website, and where they can get your books and what you offer? And then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah. All my books and my hard copy CDs are on thunderbeat.com. And you can do and all my music on download, plus an audio book for my look up ETs and Angels book is on my download site, which is called SiriusStargate.com, spelled like SIRIUS Stargate.com. So we can maybe put that up on the the bottom here. And but you can listen to my music for free on the download site, and if whatever you'd like to download, then you can download. So it's all good.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us. This was amazing, and you have so many stories to tell, and people need to hear this information. And I think what you're discovering right now with the Egyptian stuff in Sedona and all over the United States is, in fact, I think it's the next. I think that's what needs to be known, because that rewrites history, and if we don't know where we came from, how are we ever going to get where we need to go? We need to know our true history. So
that's right.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in. We love you all. We can't do this without you. Thank you for the donations, the support. Go sign up for the Patreon if you haven't. We just finished our Tartaria webinar, 3.5 hours long, tons of research. But if you're interested in that subject, head over there and check that out. And until next time, guys, have a great evening. We love you all.
Yo, what's up, everyone? How you guys doing today? You guys feeling those vibes? Yeah, you know what it is, so check it out. So May 13th to 16th, Grafton, Illinois, Rebels of Disclosure Conference. Yeah, I'm pumped. It's going to be my first time in the States, first time going to a conference, first time seeing any of these speakers live, and the first time I'm going to get to meet hundreds of people that I've been chatting with and interacting with on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm so pumped. I did just check. They have the website up and running. It's looking really fresh. It has all the information on tickets, meal plans, the schedule, when the speakers are going to be speaking, information on all the speakers, frequently asked questions, and where you can camp or your lodgings for the weekend, as well information on where the event's going to be at, and it looks dope. I do believe that this is going to be the best year yet. I may be biased because I'm going this year, but that's just what I'm vibing. But yeah, if you haven't checked out the website, go check it out. It's looking really good. I'm super excited, man. I've been following Tyler and Aaron for a long time. I really love their podcast and all the people they bring on, and the lineup this year looks so sick. So, and if you're going, I'm super excited to meet you. I'm going to give you a big hug, a big starseed squeeze, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyway, you guys, I hope you guys have an amazing day today. Sending you guys lots of love, and man, I can't wait for this conference. Big ups, Aaron and Tyler, and yeah, guys, have a great day. Peace.